This time I got a Sony Betamax SLHFR70. This was the HiFi ready VCR Betamax that you could add the optional HiFi processor, and I just so happened to have the HiFi processor to go with it. So let's check this one out and see what's wrong with it. When Sony came out with their Beta HiFi machines, they produced a couple models that they called HiFi ready. The SLHFR, I think it was the 50 and the 70. This is the SLHFR70. And I have the optional Beta HiFi add-on, the Beta HiFi processor. So the deck itself was essentially a mono deck that they would sell at a reduced cost. And then if somebody down the road decided that they wanted to add stereo, they could, instead of replacing the machine with a new machine with Beta HiFi, they could just add this. This is actually a super beta machine with the optional processor. The HFR50, if I remember correctly, was not super beta. There might have been an HFR30 as well. I forget. It's been so long. I actually never saw too many of these. We had them in the showroom at the shop, but I don't think they ever sold, because people would walk in and they'd say, well, if I have to buy the VCR and the processor, that's going to cost me more than buying a Beta HiFi machine all at once. So they weren't a big seller, but it was a feature that they offered. It was a way to step up. This one here, the complaint on this one says image is not clear. So let's see what's wrong with it. I don't see an image at all. Oops. Yeah, it might help if I actually plug the monitor in. I had a different cable plugged in. Let's just try the tracking control on this and see. Sure looks like dirty heads. Let's just check this out and see whether it's just... That sounded healthy. Let's just pop the top off it and see if it's dirty heads. Had to love these machines. Sony went to just 2 screws at the back. There's indentations at the front where screws would be, but there was never any screws put in them. There's not even any holes drilled. If the lighting looks a little different in here, it's because I don't have all the shop lights on. I'm literally in the dark. The only lights that are on are the lights shining right on the bench. I got two LED lights. That's all that's on right now. I did that just so that the CRT monitor shows off a little better, because when I've got 50,000 candle power of light in here, well, it makes it kind of hard to see the screen on camera anyway. So here's the head drum. Again, these machines look exactly like the non-HiFi or the HiFi machines, except for they don't have the HiFi board in them. Other than that, they're identical. Let's just clean the head. Grab a piece of paper and some alcohol. Didn't appear to be much dirt on there. Maybe the head's shot. That's always a possibility that the head itself is shot. Oh, actually, no, it's actually better. Ha 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 ha! Excellent! Excellent! Well, looks like this one's working. Well, maybe not. Oh, you know what? I think, if I'm not mistaken, this tape has been slightly erased. And it's going to stop right about now. And then start working again. But every 10 seconds, it does it. That's a glitch on my tape. Oops, I have to re-record this tape. It'll stop again right about now. There you go. What's happened is my tape got put, I guess it got set down near a magnet. If we watch the reel, I'll tell you when it's going to do it. And does it now. Look at where the reel is, just with the little hub there just passing there. We watch the tape. We'll make one revolution and it should glitch again right about now. And there it glitched. Every time the reel rotates. Believe me, the first time I ran into this phenomenon on this tape that got partially erased, I was pulling my hair out. I was working on a machine. I thought the machine had a problem. I couldn't figure out why the hell it was doing it. And then it dawned on me it was doing it every rotation. It'll glitch again right about now. Right about now. And it'll be coming up again right about now. Machine work, I gotta watch that because that was something I downloaded off YouTube and I just don't want to get hit with copyright on it, so I'll have to trim that stuff down. Anyway, about probably 30 odd years ago, I had a VCR. I can turn the rest of the lights on in here now. Had a VCR that would break up like that, and anyway, I pulled my hair out on it because the machine would never fault. I forget what brand it was, but it was a VHS machine, a high-end one. And anyway, customer comes in, brings this machine in under warranty, records and plays fine, no fault found. Goes out, comes back, still complaining. Couldn't play his tapes, couldn't play his Disney tape, or whatever it was, right? Some pre-recorded tape. Anyway, wouldn't play. And of course it comes in and never brought the tape initially. Comes back with the tape. We're watching the tape and it started doing that. And we figured out that the control track... First of all, we're looking for damaged tape to see if the tape had been damaged, but the tape wasn't. And what it was I guess it was one of the kids had been playing with a magnet. And they had damaged the control track on the tape, just like on this tape. I don't know where this came into contact with the magnet because I don't have magnets in here. I'm thinking, you know, it's probably that my tapes were sitting on top, well, they're sitting on top of a speaker. Or close to a speaker, not sitting on top of a speaker, but they're sitting probably a foot away. Something erased this tape right wherever this little window here where they thread the tape up, right where this passes over here every rotation. I don't know how far it is on the tape. It might only be at the beginning, but I'm gonna have to re-record this this tape that I use. It's just some visuals that I took off of YouTube. Anyway, nice simple one for a change. Just dirty heads on this, but I figured I'd show you guys this old SLHFR70 with the processor. You guys want to see the inside of the processor? I'll open it up and show it to you. So the processor connected by this multi-connector. It passed several signals. One, it passed the RF going to the heads for recording, and it passed the RF coming back from the heads for playback, so it could demodulate the FM signal. It also passed the MTS audio signal from the tuner because the unit itself does not have a stereo tuner. It only has a mono tuner, but this has the MTS decoder built into the processor. So the baseband audio is passed over to the stereo decoder so that it can decode the audio from an MTS stereo TV signal. So it was more than just the processor for the Beta Hi-Fi. One thing that frustrates me when people bring equipment into me, they never tie up the cords. I get people that bring equipment to me and they have the cords dragging on the ground, and it's a pet peeve. Tie up your damn cords. So for those of you thinking that this thing would be empty inside, feast your eyes. There's a lot of parts that went into this thing. It's got its own separate power supply, and that looks like to be a toroidal transformer. Their own separate regulators on here. So it's got a power supply board, and it's got a DBX board over here. I think this is the MTS decoder, but if you look on here, this is a DBX chip. A Panasonic DBX chip, AN6291. That is used for demodulating the stereo MTS signal. So the baseband audio would have been fed into here. You've got the demodulation circuit. So this is your matrix. I'm sure this is the matrix here. And this is the decompression. And this would, I'm sure it does SAP as well. and in doing so for SAP, it would probably feed the SAP audio back via the multi-connector so that it could be recorded on the linear track. Because that's typically how, when you set for SAP, for the second audio program, they recorded the second audio program on the linear track. So you had your stereo sound plus the second audio program if you selected SAP mode, which is probably what this switch on the back does. Where is it here? There's a switch on the back. Type A and Type B. One of these switches here. You got an MPX level control. That's for setting the stereo level, to get a good demod in case the levels are too loud or too low. And on the back, fine tracking. This would be for adjusting the carrier frequency, I'm sure, for playback. And then of course over here, this is your FM modulator and demodulator for the beta hi-fi circuits. But quite the complex unit, and hence the reason it was expensive. If I remember right, something like this was, I think, $300 or $400. Like the beta machine itself was like, at the time, it was probably $500, and then another $300 or $400 for the processor, which got you up to the same kind of price range as a beta hi-fi machine of the day, maybe a little bit more. Sony did the same bonehead move with their 8mm decks. They had a standalone PCM processor. I don't think I've ever seen one. But I know they had a standalone PCM processor that you could buy for specific decks that were upgraded. They had it, of course, on the EVS 3000 and the 5000 and the 7000. They all had it built in. But there was another one, an 8mm deck, that was not a high 8 deck, and I had one. I'm trying to remember what happened to it, because I have the unit. I had one. I don't know whether I got rid of it, but I had one. It was like a home deck, front loading, 8mm, not high 8, just 8mm. Now that I remember, I had one, but I don't know what I did with it. Whether I've still got it, it might be in my storage unit, but I did have one, and I had the processor for it as well. It was a tuner. It was a tuner timer processor. I don't know if it did the PCM or not, though. I think the one I had was just the tuner timer, and it had a fancy cord like this on it, and you could actually plug it into a camera, like the CCD V8 and the V8 AF and the V110 that had the multi-connector. You could plug it in and use the camera as a home deck, but it could also plug into a standalone deck that they had. Anyway, that's going way back. If I've got it, I might still have it kicking around. I'll have to look for that. Next time I get into my storage locker and start digging through some of the old stuff, maybe I'll dig that up and we can go through it, because that certainly is a collector's item. But then again, I may have turfed it. I may have tossed it away years ago, or I may have given it away or sold it. I don't remember. I'll have to go look for it. But I know I definitely had the tuner timer unit for the cameras. And they had another one that was the PCM processor for the 8mm deck that I had. But I don't think I've got the 8mm deck anymore. I'm pretty sure I sold that one like years ago. I had a bunch of 8mm stuff that I sold. I had an EVS 2000, which I sold. I had an EVS 3000, which I sold. I still have an EVS 5000, which doesn't work, and I have an EVS 7000 that does. The 5000 doesn't work because the same part broke on that as the 7000, and that was the take-up hub. That's the reason my 5000 doesn't work. It's because the take-up hub failed on that, and I robbed it to fix, or I should say the take-up hub failed on the 7000, and I robbed it out of the 5000 to fix the 7000. So my 5000's got one with a cracked ear. Anyway, I just keep it for spare parts because the head drum and stuff is the same to keep the 7000 running. Anyway, I think that's about all I can show you on this one here. So, till next time, thanks for watching.